So for those of you who don't really know, um, I've been a I started out as a caregiver for my sister who is a disabled veteran. She was a West Pointer, and then went on to work for the federal government. Um, she worked for HUD and Bureau of Reclamation. She was a presidential management fellow, just like both my parents worked for the federal government. I was the oddball who didn't do it. I ended up working in aviation, and so my sister had a lot of health issues, mental health issues, physical health issues, and it took us quite a long time, uh, about 10 years, to really get the ratings. She's been in the VA system for about 21 years now, and um, she finally just got her 100% total and permanent. And it's been 21 years. And she's had a ruling by the court that, that she can't work, and she's on Social Security disability. She has federal retirement because she was a federal employee, and then plus West Point. She went to West Point when she was about 17 years old. And but even still, like she had to fight to get that rating over 21 years. Um, she got denied for really superfluous reasons. One was she posted on social media when she was going out on a date. She had makeup on, and the judge said, well, if you have makeup on, you can work." Um, and so we had to get eventually we just had to get an attorney, and my mom and I we paid for that, and then they took a percentage when when she finally got her rulings and stuff. Um, at first she wanted to work from home, but then they tried to fire her, and she had to fight that too. So it's like she had to fight, not only the unlawful firing, but then she had to, fight to get the ratings and care that she needed. Um, and I'm going through the same process. Like I was a little more stubborn about it and stupid. Um, I busted my knees in the Marine Corps in reserves and in training accident. And for years, I just wouldn't put in for it, because I was one of those people like, no, I'm not a taker, you know, I'm, and I mean, honestly, I think the first time I ever took unemployment, even though I rated it multiple times throughout my life, was during the pandemic. It was just one of those stubborn pride things. It was stupid, even though I'd paid into it, it's one of those things. It's just like, no, if I want money, I'll work for it. That kind of crap. Um, so, and the sad part is my sister still had to fight for that stock, even though she was a West Pointer. She got a medical board in the Army, and she worked for the VA afterward. And so did my mom. My mom worked for a long time in the VA. It was the bulk of her federal career. She worked in a department called IRM. It was in computers. And before that, she'd worked in naval intelligence, and she had to take a long absence, which unfortunately wasn't paid for at that time. She had cancer in her left shin. She went to the Mayo Clinic, and they literally pulled out her whole shin bone in her left leg and then put in another one. And she had to basically learn how to walk again. We think it's one of the reasons, like, she has falling issues now. Um, she's always kind of had a gait ever since then. So, it's just even more pronounced now that she has that sort of dementia shuffle. And the reason I'm kind of bringing all this up is, while My family was certainly not rich by any means. We were a middle class educated family. Um, you know, my dad cobbled together like an associate's degree, but he got up to eventually a GS 13, almost a 14. My mom retired as a 12. So it's pretty high up in the federal workforce. And my sister was a West Point graduate. She had 2 master's degrees and a graduate certificate from Notre Dame, and was a presidential management fellow. I have a master's in history, and we got chewed up by the system. And the only reason that we've been able to really navigate through it is because I we're literally a family of federal employees. And we know how to navigate the federal system. It's like, oh, well, if they deny you here, then you go over here and you contact this person and you do this in this department and you go get this. And it's like, we understand the hopscotch games and that it's going to take a long time, and eventually they're just going to go here. Um, but the big problem with that is not everybody knows how to do that. And not everybody survives long enough to get those things. And that's absolutely by design. And it's a huge reason why people don't trust the government is because the apparatus that was supposed to help you isn't. It's not going to. And it's I don't want to say it's one particular party that's done all of it. But they've done most of it. The Republicans have. I mean, you had Clinton who fired a lot of the federal workforce and then replace them with consultants. And so it didn't really, that's where we like part of the, after him, like the deficit started to balloon because then it's like you had opened it up with George W. Bush and contractors and everything else, so, but I mean, and that was one of those misguided attempts that Democrats like to do where, they get tough and they try to act like a Republican. So for Clinton, it was cutting the federal workforce by 20%. Or, with Obama, he got tough on immigration and did a lot of deportations, thinking that, oh, we'll get immigration reform. And then, of course, the Republicans screwed him on that. And then also hit him with sequestration. If it wasn't for John Boehner, I would have been a federal employee too. I was set to be a security analyst with the Department of the Navy. That was I got recruited out of college when I was doing a master's in history. And I didn't really want to be a professor because of what was happening in academia. They were not. You didn't. It was damn near impossible to get a job even with a PhD back in 2012. And they weren't tenure was not a thing. I mean, they were getting rid of it and everybody was adjunct and they were paying them not, and it's just, no. And I had a lot of friends that it was the same way that I was in grad school with. They went on to become either attorneys or they went on and did something else. I went on to aviation eventually. But I was going to be a security analyst. And sequestration happened with Boehner and the Tea Party, and there went my job. It was frozen indefinitely. And I moved up to DC to try to wait it out, and ended up, I was working in aviation, throwing bags as basically a temp job, and it turned into a little bit of a career. But I say, like, what's unfair, even though we're kind of lucky, is so my mother was a federal employee, retired, quote unquote, under the old system, right? Which is better than, of course, the new system. And, she worked for naval intelligence in Hawaii. And in the building that did not have any windows. so they couldn't take pictures of what was going on, right? It was this big, like, concrete cube for Fick-Pack Fleet. And she worked in IRM for veterans in the VA at Rocky Mountain Home VA Medical Center in Johnson City, Tennessee, where my dad's buried. My dad was a Vietnam era. He was in the Navy and he was a hurricane hunter. He was also a federal employee. Um, he's buried there. And my mom, when she passes, is going to be buried with him. And my mom also worked for the Forestry Service. She finished her career there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And she had to buy long-term care insurance before she retired, because she apparently, supposedly, has the Cadillac of health insurance. She has federal Medicare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? And she purchased, because she had to purchase it, because you don't get it if you don't purchase it before you retire, long-term care insurance, which covers a whopping $150,000. So at today's rates, with the memory care home she's in, because she's moved into severe dementia, which I'll get into in a minute, it's going to last 15 months. That's her long-term care insurance of a lifetime, a career paid into health insurance in the US. And in order to get that, we don't get that right away, hence the GoFundMe. We have to pay 90 days, which is going to be about $36,000 in order to just get the long-term care. And the thing is, because I've been a caregiver for 5 years, essentially being paid a stipend for my sister, because I was actually a caregiver for my mother, but because she's in Medicare and not Medicaid, well, she makes too much money in federal retirement, so we can't pay you to be her caregiver. So I got to do that free, even though she desperately needed it because she was going into dementia, and I was already here for my sister, and I said, okay, well, I'll do both. So there was no possible way I could actually work. I could write, I could stay home and write, but, and, and so now my mother, who is highly educated, got an accounting degree from Denver University, worked as an accountant for one of the big accounting firms in the 60s in New York City, right? And, I could go on and on and on about how, like the sexism she encountered and the promotion she didn't get because she was a woman, and, you know, and things she got passed over for by less qualified people, like men that look like me. Like, let's be clear, you know, um, we're still one of the lucky ones. We're still one of the lucky ones because my mom is in a good memory care facility in Parker, Colorado, just about 20 miles away. And yeah, we're gonna figure it out on, you know, how to do it. I don't know quite yet, but we're gonna get past the 90 days because unfortunately we both live on a fixed income. And this isn't a beg, like a live beg or anything. I've got a GoFundMe up on my page. If you can donate, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. I understand, because honestly, there are people that have it a hell of a lot harder than my family does. This is a very tough time for us because it was so sudden, and just the amount of money, because we live pretty frugally because we're on fixed incomes. Um, but we're lucky. We're better off than most. But what infuriates me is it shouldn't be this way. Because right now, the Senate has their murder bill where they're getting ready to cut even more from people that are struggling. Because it wasn't enough, the Medicaid cuts the House put in, which were already going to impact tens of millions of Americans. The Senate decided, let's go 100 million more. Shall we? Let's cut even more Medicaid. Let's mess around with Medicare. And this is after that they want to cut 80,000 employees from the VA, which is where, as a disabled veteran myself, that's where I get my health care. I get it from the VA. I would have I couldn't afford health care with what I have to do like now, being a caregiver. Like I couldn't afford it. Maybe if I was in a state like California, but Colorado, I mean, they do have options, but they're limited. I could have Chant VA with my sister, but without the VA, I I wouldn't have health care. So, and I mean, and that's the infuriating part is, you know, my mom's not going to live in some lap of luxury. And she's got a nice place. And the only reason she's going there is what happened was, oh God, yeah. Yeah, I wrote a whole article about that. Where I just like I just said, Trumpers can basically kiss my ass and don't thank me for my service. It infuriates me. You know. I used to. I now I just I'm too tired to get mad at that. You know. Um. Yeah. So. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was in ABQ like a couple weeks ago. No, but what happened with my mom is she's had we think she's had dementia for a while, probably about 8 years. Um, she was real stubborn and didn't want to go get a cognitive test and an MRI. Um, and so eventually it was just like when it got really really bad, we were just like okay, and so we weren't really prepared for the wandering part. Um, and what happened was I was part of what I do just to make a little change and to kind of get me away from computer. Um, where I'm not just constantly, writing 4 and 5 hours at a stretch is, um, I, do dog walks, right? Or I'll do drop-ins or something like that. I started on Rover, but I have like, some regular clients now. And it's good. It just kind of gets me out and, gets me just a little bit of exercise. Not enough, but a little bit. And so I was on a dog walk. My sister was going to run to the store real quick. And my mom had been fine up to that point. And my sister came back and there was ambulance lights at the house. And what had happened, the best we can figure, because she doesn't remember anything, is she was looking for the cat for some reason, which she'd kind of been talking about a bunch a few days leading up to it. She got obsessed with the cat for some reason, which in dementia that kind of happens. And um, and she fell face first on the concrete. She'd fallen in the house some, but it was just like on the side, or it was like a slip. It wasn't that bad, but she fell face first, and she was elevated, so it's like she took a pretty nasty header, broke her right shoulder, and then part of her, I think her forearm too, when she tried to, when she fell, and then two teeth got knocked out. Um, and I think she took a pretty bad concussion too. Um, so yeah, and even now, like the ambulance, Medicare covered it, but again, how do they do it? It's like, well, they mail us a check and then we cash it and then we have to pay, you know, the ambulance service. Okay. I'm sure there's some shenanigans going on there, taxes or whatever the hell, It's just like you can't, as our insurance company, just pay them directly, huh? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my company did that when I was in AA. They did that to me where they would give me like $15,000 for a move. And it was like, oh, yeah, we'll just pay you 15 grand. You can handle your own move. It's like, great. I get taxed on that. Now, it was nice under Obama because if it was a move, you could get that back on your taxes. But then Trump killed that. So there you go. Um, so, yeah, I mean, so my mom, again, we're lucky that we do have the medical coverage we do. They covered her for physical rehabilitation. But the problem was we didn't know how severe her dementia was. And they were telling us that after a fall like that, it could get really, really bad, And so, yeah, like, yeah, when she was in the facility, she was just wandering around. She was out of it and she was falling again. And like, what couldn't, I mean, they say it's like confusion, but they're like, maybe she could come home, but she doesn't even really recognize me. And she kind of already started doing that before the fall. She didn't like she started calling my sister her mom, so it was already headed in that general direction. Um, so yeah, and she's agitated and upset and honestly, as anybody would be when they're confused and don't know what's going on and you don't know where you're at. Like I can only imagine what that's like, so uh we found her a good facility, one that basically um with her federal retirement and hopefully she can get aid in attendance, which is a thing from my dad, and that would cover it for now. But once she needs more care, which is probably coming up soon, we'll have to cover the rest, you know. So, but that's a problem down the road, a year or two. Um, who knows? Um, and I mean, it's hard because it's like we've got to a place where we simply just can't care for her. Um, she requires an environment that's really really like 24-hour care. You know, somewhere where she can just have staff and she's really social, so it's hard for her kind of being at home with just us, especially with me and my sister does painting and some other things, and she goes to therapy, like especially equine therapy, and um, she's trying to have what life she can, and then I'm trying to care for two people, and then also write and push forward a career of my own, like yeah. But so I mean, it's we're so we I thought I knew this day was coming, but like everyone else, you know, it's like it. I thought it was like 2-3 years out, you know, like 2-3 years out. It's funny, like, when Kamala Harris talked about the sandwich generation, because we don't have kids. My sister doesn't, neither do I. I said, "Yeah, we're the open face sandwich," you know? Uh, And I mean, I didn't expect to become a caregiver, you know? Um, I was like I was the guy in operations management that was on flight line, working around big planes, like, you know, sometimes yelling you know, like a sergeant on the battlefield to get people's attention or, just, like monitoring staffing and hundreds of flights a day and, you know, like, and and then I was going home in 2019 more and more and more. Um, because for my sister, because my mom was I thought it was just old age at the time, but it was increasingly getting tougher on her to care for my sister. So I was burning all my sick time, trying to go back from LA to Denver and, taking like weeks and stretches just to give my mom a break. And the plan was I was just going to relocate and try to get a job in Denver just so I could, like with the airlines out of DIA and then just, like be like just kind of help out. But the pandemic kind of just pushed me into being a caregiver, you know, and I had jobs here and there, but my mom picked up the slack, when I'd go out of town, but I could only go out of town for like maybe a month or two, three at the most. And yeah, and then uh, about 2 years ago, I mean that was it. I couldn't even go out of town for like a month, maybe a week, maybe two. That was it. And this past year, it was like that. Even that was stretching it. Like I'd have to get other people to help with my sister and my mom, come check on them. So yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of person that I'll say like I don't know if I did enough, but I did what I could. You know, I did what I could, and you know, so. But again, because we have some resources, like I'm literally just trying to get help for just the 90 days, and then I've got a reprieve, for 15 months where I can try to like some breathing room to figure it out. Um, I'm luckier than most. I mean, there's seniors in nursing homes right now that are going to, if this murder bill goes through, they're going to get kicked out. Rural health clinics, like the ones that one that my ex-wife worked at in Carter County for WIC, women, infants, and children. Um, that's most likely going to close. Those programs are going to be cut. That's part of SNAP, you know. And it's crazy because WIC is really just a program that subsidizes American dairy farmers. You get like cereal and cheese and, milk, peanut butter. That's about it. But for the people that need it, it comes in handy, you know. And it's interesting because my sister and I live like very different lives in our working life. She went to West Point. Um, she was in the Army and Signal, and then she went in the federal government, and she was around like at least working professionals or people that came for money or People that were there were like I don't want to say disadvantaged people that got into West Point, but you know, uh, like myself, I was around working folks for most of my career. I was a working folk. I was a teamster when I was throwing bags. I was a grunt in the Marine Reserves. I mean, academia was really my only office job. You know, and so like I worked. I did seasonal farm work when I was a teenager to get money. My dad was, first born in 1940 in Macon, Mississippi, uh, and they were poor whites. So, if my dad wanted some extra money, as a kid and not to get beat by my grandfather who was a drunk, then, he'd go pick cotton, and get paid for the day. And then he'd talk to me, remember, like going and buying some food for his, so his brothers and sisters could eat, you know, and, it's like, yeah, that's when, for him, that's where the color line started to drop, because he was out in the fields and stuff. So when I got to be a teenager, it was like, well, you want some, just, hey, I need tobacco, go do that. You can go do farm work. It's like, okay, you know, and then it's like, you come home and you made your money from farm work. And it's just, I'd go work farm stuff and it's like, what are you going to do with that money? You know, and he just set me up. Be mad as hell because I'm going to get me some Air Jordans. Shoes for $125. I was like, yeah, I got the money. He's like, no, you're not. Snatch. It's like, you gonna contribute. If you gonna spend the money on stupid stuff, I'm gonna take it. We're gonna put it to the house. I'm like, okay, yeah. Here, you could have You could have $10 back. Thanks. Yeah. So, like, yeah, that's how it was for me coming up. No slack. I was the firstborn son for him, so no slack. So, yeah, we butted heads when I got to be a teenager. No, pretty bad. He died of cancer when I was 21, and then left our family in a bad spot because he was trying to uh, get a country music career going, at least as a manager, and he had not blown through, but he put all his money into that. And then he got cancer at the worst time, and because he was like, well, I just always go back to work for the federal government, and no, we ended up losing the house. And we didn't get another house until this one in August of 2020. And we got it just because it was fair market value. It was actually below market at the time. We just happened to, the things just lined up. We got lucky, but we lost our family home 97. We didn't have one for 23 years. It took 23 years to recover from that devastation, you know. So, but even still, my family's blessed because we were never homeless. We always had a place to live. I always had something. There was never a moment where I opened the fridge and there wasn't nothing to eat. Obviously, but yeah, and that's the abomination of this murder bill. I mean, they're not hiding it anymore. You know, and they're coming they're coming for everybody. You know, like whether you're Latino or you're so undocumented or you're whoever if you're not one of the elites, they're coming for all of us. it's gonna be harder for everybody, you know? Um, so, you know, and if you're a caregiver out there now, I understand. I feel you. I was definitely not the guy. Lord, I was not a caregiver. I was not a caregiver when I was called to do that. No, not at all. I was a Philadelphia operations aviation manager. I was not the most friendly of people. Let's just say that. I was like, my patience was, let's just say it needed to be developed, you know. Like, and I wasn't the yelling and screaming kind, but I was definitely like the no excuse kind. It was like, and yeah, that didn't go well. So, you know, but that's part of life. That's the thing. No matter what. I mean, I didn't even want to put up that GoFundMe. I mean, that hurt. You know, my sister's freaking out. I'm like, it's gonna be okay. I can do this. It's like, all right, we'll try this loan. We'll try this. We'll try this. You know, it's like, well, I don't have enough credit. Let me try to get an increase. Let me try this. Let me try this. And finally, it was just like, okay, oh shit. Maybe there's some work I could go get. I don't know, seasonal work or something. Unfortunately, I'm 48 years old. You know, oh, the worst part, Charlie, is those states you are legally obligated to take on their medical bills. So when they get thrown out, then you got to cover it. So you get double hit. Yeah, that's like I told I told. I mean, so you know, and we in memory care, it ain't like it's like, oh, we're putting her in assisted living, or this kind of, no, it's a whole different it's a whole different racket. You know, but yeah, I mean, I tried everything, then do a GoFundMe. That hurt, but it's like, oh, hey man, this ain't about you. You know, it's like, yeah, yeah. And I wish I had something deeper to say about it. I really don't. You know, I don't. I mean, I hate what's going on. I can't stand the unfairness of it. I'm not talking about life. I'm, in the biology and everything else. I mean, that is what it is. But that we somehow been convinced by the elites and their sycophantic politicians that, you know, oh, PJ, you didn't have to do that. I appreciate that though so very much. Thank you. But I just you know, I just why I like my mom is not going to like a five-star luxury hotel. She's got a small room with a small little sink, a little mini fridge. She does have a walk-in shower, which is great. Toilet with the handles and all that. But all we were able to put in there was her bed, which is a queen, you know, and one nightstand and she's got an AC unit under the window, and the window faces a parking lot, and it's one of the better facilities. And, they have good food, like a dining hall. They do activities with the folks, we can come and visit, which was important to us because Parker, it's only like 15 miles away, like 25-minute drive, where we can bring her dog. Because that was the thing she was worried about. She couldn't bring pets, and she's like, "You're not gonna get rid of the animals." I'm like, "No, we ain't gonna get rid of the animals. We'll keep them." You know, it's funny because her dog, she had this affinity, like, because she suffered abuse when she was young. That was one of the hard parts. Was like, um, her and her brothers were really just like, it was hard, and so like she started confusing me with her brother, and so there'd be times like we'd be eating, and she would just get furious at me just out of nowhere. Um, and it's shocking at first it happened, but then it's like, you know, because my name's Fred, and her older brother that has been the worst to her is named Fred. It's like, damn, you know. So I had to, like I'm getting beat up verbally, but it's just like, look, you know, and but I mean, it's it's like I after a while, it's just like, man, it's just a confused woman that's suffering, man. Just it's take it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? But again, I'm a lucky one because I have something. I'm not left with nothing. You know, my dad has given my mom an annuity for 28 years since he died, but he died young. He was 58 when he passed. You know, with cancer. But yeah, no, and my mom's dog Biscuit, she's a little rat terrier mix, and she something happened to her. That's my mom is like, we're both just abused, aren't we, Biscuit? Like, oh man. But they debarked her, so like she has this, you can kind of hear her, but they debarked her when we got her. And she used to just be super territorial with my mom. And would like when we first got her, she bit me like 2, 3 times, you know, just out of nowhere, you know? And so, like, but over time, you know, now her and I we're pals, because a part of it is just, um, I would get up early. I'm always the earliest one up in the house, so I would feed the dogs in the morning, you know, and so I was just, kind to her, and I'm just, so it's just like her little tail would wag, and I'd come feed her, after a while. Like when I say a while, I'm talking years, like plural. Um, yeah, but I'd never get rid of her now. You know, my sister's not a fan of her, or she wasn't. She's just like, you know, it's like she's like, we'd probably get rid of Biscuit. I thought, oh no, you're not. It's like that's my dog, you know. So you know, but yeah, I mean, I made mom made me promise her in one of her more lucid moments that she was like, can't get rid of the animal. I said, okay, we ain't gonna get rid of the animals, you know. So I do appreciate every single one of y'all being here, and I appreciate, especially PJ. Thank you so much. You don't really don't know how much that's gonna help my mother. Um, And I mean, I appreciate y'all with the support. You know, I appreciate y'all with feedback and reading what I do. Um, I it's tough out there, and it's going to be tough for a lot of us, you know. And so we got to hang together, you know, and do what we can for each other, you know. I sure hope they find like I know Tom Tillis is going to retire because he's had enough. I hope they find some other people with some spines and vote this damn thing down. I'm gonna need about four of them, but I'm not holding my breath because, again, I know I keep saying it. My family's one of the more fortunate ones because there's going to be tens of millions of Americans that are not going to be fortunate. And I've worked with those people. I have lived amongst those people. I have gone to school with those folks. Oh, Charlie, I'll tell you, I mean, he and I were from the same. I spent a good chunk of my life in Tri Cities. I've seen poverty. I've organized in those hollers and with that poverty. And I mean, I don't understand uh, uh, how how people who have such abundance just can't do something to uplift these places. You know, I mean, you don't see Elon Musk's name on any hospitals. You don't see him or Jeff Bezos or any of that giving away a lot of their wealth. I mean, damn. Once you have like 10 billion, do you need any more? Really? Like, you know, and that's the thing. It was just, it that's the thing that kills me is they're going to make us take it from them. That's where it's going to lead up to. Cuz now you have people dying in ICE custody. They think it's like 13. There's probably more, right? And what is the ghoul old D-bag running it? Oh, well, that's people just die in ICE custody. Oh, really? They just die in federal custody. People who aren't criminals. Man, no wonder you won't let him let anybody in there to see it. You know, I really do. I really hope they vote this down because if they don't, it's gonna be bad for a while. Because again, my family and I, again, we're on a fixed income. I don't have a lot of credit. I live lean. But with this, what's happened with my mother, I'm like one more calamity from having a real serious problem, right? There's people that are like, you know, right there. They're at the calamity. Like a one- a a breath pushes them over, and that's it. You know, I mean, and I was fortunate that because my sister's a veteran, even though the caregiver that she rates, they're still not paying that. We've had it in appeal for 2 years. Actually, no, we've had it in appeal for 5 years. This last appeal is because they changed the law has been 2 years. It's been 5 years since we've had an appeal, because I'm not getting paid what she should rate. Even though a judge said you actually should get more than your rating because of everything that you went through. It's kind of like when she was living in a barracks that had asbestos in it and Camp Red Cloud in Korea. and she had all kinds of lung problems and heart problems and all the stuff associated with asbestos, right? And the army said, "Oh, you can't prove that." It's like literally the quarters I was staying in after I left Korea was condemned for asbestos. Oh yeah, but it's totally not related. I mean, it astounds me that you have people that are just like they'll sell out, they'll give up their health care, they'll give up everything so they can hang on to their hate and their grievances. I'll never understand it. I never will. Give up good public schools, give up public universities, give up. Just let the rich take it. Just let them take it, you know. And oh yeah, yeah. They need to go. Supreme Court, man. We gotta we gotta find a way to at least Clarence Thomas and Alito. They gotta go. You know, retire, prosecute them something. I mean, that's we're getting to a place where it's it's gonna approach bad, and the reaction is not gonna be it's not gonna be civil. I'm not calling for that. You know, I want to be clear. I'm not calling for that. I've studied history. I know where this goes. You know, and it's not anywhere nice. It's not gonna be nothing nice. You know, like I said, I hope that you've got at least 4 senators that are gonna. I know it's a forlorn hope. You know, but I hope it happens because I don't want to see people. I mean, we're already gonna get hurt. It's already started. They released the revised figures for the first quarter, and the contraction was worse than the economists thought. You know, so I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, if I was a praying man, I'd be praying. But I'm not. You know, but so because tomorrow, my sister and I are going to go pick up on my mom. We'll take her to the memory care facility, and then hope and then yeah, hope she's you know, it's okay. I hope she has a good day. I hope she's at least excited for it that day or tomorrow. Because the bad days will come. They'll come. But hopefully she'll get settled in. I hope she does. I hope she enjoys it, you know. And I hope she finds some friends there, and I hope she um, can have some at least live in some kind of dignity, you know, for her remaining years. However long that is, you know. So anyway, that's what I was doing today. Well, that's what I've been doing for the past month and, whatever. But I appreciate y'all. I do. I appreciate you showing up for the lives. I appreciate y'all uh, just being supportive as you are. And it means a lot, you know. And Yeah, I'm gonna try, Tracy. You I usually like. I mean, I'm always the one that just, I don't let it go easily in the sense of like showing emotions. It's just I've had to carry that mantle since my dad passed, and being in a lot of leadership positions. It's like you have to just, you know, you got to maintain the air of calm. I didn't always do that, you know. Um, but that's why sometimes I come across, cold and a little bit aloof, you know. Nah, it's just been a day. It's been a day, Rob. I'm just tired. It's just a lot, you know. But we carry on because we have to, Ain't nothing else to do, you know. So I can't check out yet. I got my sister to take care of. I still got things that I need to get done. So that's why we carry on. You know, we gotta live up to our obligations, and we gotta live up to our purposes or our purpose. So, you know, but yeah. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And remember, keep the faith and defend democracy. And I'm gonna try to do the same. Y'all have a good one.